Ready to unwrap a surprise from Consumer Cellular? Experience the gift of freedom with no contract, no hidden fees, and always free activation. Here comes the holiday surprise. From now till December 31st, new customers can enjoy their second month for free. To get this holiday offer, visit consumercellular.com or call 1-888-FREEDOM and use promo code PODCAST. Act before December 31st to get your second month on us. Use promo code PODCAST.
We started our company, Girls Who Do Interiors, before we even graduated design school. And we turned to Chase for Business to build along with us. They had everything from banking to payment acceptance to credit cards all in one place. And with the Chase mobile app, our business is wherever we are. It's made for business owners who build to inspire. Learn more at chaseforbusiness.com. Make more of what's yours.
Real customers compensated. Chase mobile app is available for select mobile devices. Message and data rates may apply. JP Morgan Chase Bank, NA member FDIC.
Hello and welcome to the Paddock and the Pavilion with Stephen Wallace. In each show, Stephen will interview someone connected to the world of horse racing or cricket.
Hello everyone. Following our recent podcast about Arkle and Millhouse with Sean McGee, today's Cheltenham Festival podcast looks ahead to Shishkin and Energumene's clash in this year's Champion Chase. My first guest is horse racing historian Sean McGee. Welcome back, Sean.
Thank you very much.
Well, before I ask you for your thoughts on the Champion Chase, Shishkin, Energumene and others, I wanted to ask you about the Queen Mother Champion Chase, the race itself. When was it first run?
Well, the race we now know as the 2-miler at the Cheltenham Festival first run in 1959 and broadly remained with that title until 1980 when the Queen Mother moved into the race title to celebrate her birthday. And so there's this very strong connection between the Queen Mother and this particular race. But she, of course, loved her jump racing much more than flat racing. And there are all these, you cannot see a picture of the Queen Mother at Cheltenham without noticing she's beaming with enjoyment. And she was it's a cliche in some ways, but she was a proper patron of the sport, rain or shine, and whether she had a runner or not. And she's a very important aspect of the history of the Champion Chase. The role of honour of this race is absolutely stunning. I wrote down just earlier today some sort of random thoughts about the great horses who've run in it, and I came up pretty quickly with Dunkirk and Flying Bolt and Crisp and Remittance Man and Viking Flagship and One Man, and it's just teams with quality. But it needs to, because it's a race which is very, very high class, every running of it, and it's for a lot of people it's the real highlight of the festival. It's got a lot of speed everywhere, jumping accuracy, pinpoint accuracy. It's really a wonderful thing to watch. And of course, mistakes are usually punished. So this year we've got an absolute crackerjack of a race, and I'm really, really looking forward to it.
There's some of the names that I've written down myself, Sean. I've also got Altior down here, Masterminded, Badsworth Boy, who won 3 times for Michael Dickinson. Who would you say of those horses we've mentioned are the best, say, 4 or 5 that have won this race?
I think, without being a cop-out, I think it's just impossible, because how can you compare Dunkirk, who was an amazing barnstorming horse? Famously, his regular jockey, Dave Dick, the irrepressible Dave Dick, he supposedly, his first ride on Dunkirk, who was a fantastic front runner, he supposedly got off in the unsaddling enclosure and just said, "Blimey," because of this horse's style of racing, which is rather nice. So there's a sad element to Dunkirk, because of course he was killed in the King George that Arkle won in 1965. Really, I'm not evading the question too much, but I mean, if you look down, who would you leave out? You wouldn't leave out Flying Bolt, who won the Champion Chase, and then the following day, not the following week, the following day, was third in the champion hurdle. There was Crisp, of course, everybody knows and loves, not least your regular guest, Richard Pittman, who rode Crisp to the most magnificent Grand National performance ever.
Yeah, we like to get Richard on the podcast. He's a regular now. He'll be pleased. I say Richard will be pleased. We've got him on the podcast.
Yeah, well, you have to with Crisp. I mean, as you say, Padsworth Boy, 3 times winner, Remittance Man, I just loved. He's deserves to be their Viking flagship, and the 2 more recently, Sprinter Sacre and indeed Altior, who you mentioned. So it's the sort of race that is so good. And also the other thing worth saying, is I would very rarely have a bet on this race. Not a huge punter anyway, but the race is too good for you to be looking beyond the leaders as the race unfolds. So I would. It's a race for purists, really. And it's got so many aspects, and especially the jumping at speed and significant speed. You can easily tell the difference between a 3-mile chaser and a 2-mile chaser in the way they jump. And it's one of those races I would always look forward to.
The Irish won the first 3 runnings of the race, and they also won the race in 2021 with Put the Kettle On. We've had a lot of Irish success in this race.
Yes, I mean the second and third runnings were both won by Fortria, who was a very high-class 2-miler and longer. And the next one of note was Ben Stack, who was like Fortria, was trained by Tom Draper, who trained Arkle. But in terms of the Irish connection, of course, we've also got Moscow Flower. We have...
Moscow Flyer won as an 11-year-old as well.
Yeah, he was an amazing horse. I last saw Moscow Flyer in a paddock at the Irish National Stud in County Kildare, where they have a few old racehorses, and they have fantastically well-known and beloved racehorses, including Moscow Flyer, and people just flock to see these old boys. And Flying Bolt, of course, was Irish trained, though English bred, incidentally. But to me, it's teams with riches, you might say.
So moving on, Sean, to 2022, who do you think is going to win this year's Queen Mother Champion Chase? Is it going to be Shishkin for England, or Energumene for Ireland, or, as some of our other guests have said, it will be something else?
Right. Well, for me, I don't have a firm opinion. If need be, if forced at gunpoint, I would back the Irish horse. I don't know why, really, but apart from the fact that he's odds against. So I'm going to evade that question and say I don't know. I'm afraid. If you force me, I'd say the Irish horse.
Sitting on the fence there a little, Sean. Over the past month, I have spoken to 7 other racing experts about the Champion Chase of 2022. Let's begin with one of our regular guests, former leading jockey and BBC presenter, Richard Pittman.
I'm just going to concentrate on Energumene and Shishkin, and it may have raised an eyebrow when I put Energumene first in that duel. He was beaten, as you say, at Ascot. What a great race it was. But inside of the stable, I'm told that tactics will be changed to run in the Champion 2-mile chase. And they hope and quite excited that they might beat Shishkin, but very aware that those two at that sort of pace, one bad mistake at a fence alters the whole result. But so I'm sticking with the Energumene to beat Shishkin, but I adore Shishkin, and if he wins, I'll raise my hat to him.
Next, I was joined by young racing journalist Sam Martin, who featured in episodes 106 and 107. So, Sam, who's going to win the Queen Mother Champion Chase, Shishkin or Energumene?
Oh, it's such an exciting clash, I think, to see them go again. Because now this time at Cheltenham, it's a completely different track to Ascot, where they ran before. Obviously, Energumene was ridden really prominently. It gave Shishkin a target to race at, whereas Energumene was just there to be shot at, really. Everything kind of went wrong for Shishkin. His jumping out of the pair of them was much worse. He made all the possible errors and yet didn't lose. And I think he showed a really excellent will to win that day, because we've seen him quite a lot just absolutely hack up for like 10 plus lengths, but now we actually saw him have a proper battle. And I think we've just got to hope that doesn't bottom either horse like we saw with Surname and Altior. But I think it's going to be, I'm really excited to see Energumene jump around Cheltenham. I was really hoping he'd run in the Arkle, but obviously he got injured. So it is his first time at the track, and like I say, different test, but it's just so sensational. They're going to reoppose with each other, and hopefully it'll be a rivalry to look back on and have great memories of in years to come. I think out of the two of them, I will possibly side with Energumene. I just think if they're going to change the way he's ridden, it should be a more interesting clash this time. But as well, I've got to give a shout out to Nube Negra. I think he'll be finishing very fast, I would have thought, and Harry Skelton will be hoping to get there just in time. He's a lovely, lovely horse. I'm lucky enough to have met him and given him a fuss, so I'll definitely be cheering him on.
One person who is going to be busy during Cheltenham Week is David Hunter, the CEO and clerk of the course at Fakenham Racecourse. Shishkin or Energumene, David?
Well, that's a question I think that will be on a lot of people's lips. So it's all looking as though it's going to be a fantastic champion chase to be run this year at Cheltenham. A great sporting event people to go and see on the second day, on the Wednesday of Cheltenham. First of all, I'm sadly not going to be there. I don't think I'm going to be able to get to any of the days of Cheltenham this year, because we race on the Friday against Cheltenham on the 18th. And now, since COVID, declarations are 48 hours in advance. So I'll be giving the grand and up early on that Wednesday, the 16th, doing things I have to do here in preparation for Fakenham on the 18th. But to your question, Shishkin or Energumene, I think it will be Shishkin myself. That's where I would place any money if I had any money. But I'd put it on Shishkin. I really enjoyed that challenge of the two horses in that small horse race at Ascot a couple of weeks ago, and I thought that the way Shishkin came back and then got his nose in front was really impressive, and I thought that Nico gave him a lovely ride and didn't really have to get too much after him. The horse just knew what needed to be done and did it without draining the tank completely. And Energumene, couldn't quite get there. So it's going to be a great race, but I think it will be on Shishkin. But, the Irish certainly ran riot at Cheltenham last year. So who knows whether they'll be doing that again. And Energumene's Willie Mullins will have that horse in top form to take on Shishkin. But I think it'll be Shishkin.
And on Friday the 18th, when you've got racing at Fakenham, everyone there will be able to watch the Cheltenham races on the TVs. Absolutely.
We get an extra large television in on Gold Cup Day and position it very close to the parade ring, so that everybody who's around and about in the parade ring, the connection things, can easily watch the Cheltenham races in between the Fakenham races. And we have found that day for us has become a really good day. It was quite a few years ago that that Cheltenham extended to 4 days and landed on the same day as us, and we from day one didn't see it as a threat but saw it as an opportunity. And we find a lot of people will come and enjoy a day's racing here. They know they can get in and out a little bit more quickly. All of our hospitality areas are fully booked, and people enjoy the day's racing with us, and also knowing they can get all the action from Cheltenham. They can see it all. They got the atmosphere of a race meeting. They can put a bet on with the on-course bookmakers, who are quite happy to take the Cheltenham bets as well as our own.
And best of luck for the weather on that Friday.
Well, let's hope so. Yes, it's been a challenging time over the last few weeks, and we should have raced last Friday, the 18th of February. But as quite a few listeners will know, we were putting up with Storm Eunice coming in, and it got the better of us, which was no surprise when you considered that the whole of England from south of Manchester was in either an amber or red weather warning, and the weather was pretty appalling on that day, and it would have been totally and utterly irresponsible for us to have tried to put a race meeting on with those high winds for racegoers coming here, but particularly horse lorries and horses coming from north, south, east and west to us. And indeed, even having got here, a strong wind like that can be very dangerous with wings and other things lifting off. If you have a horse or a jockey that's down and needs to have the screens put up, it just would have been impossible to have done that. So it's a shame, but at least I was able to call it off in plenty of time so that everybody knew that it wasn't happening, didn't need to have any wasted journeys, and could reroute their horses or their energies or whatever they're doing to another day.
Energumene had his first race at Larkhill in a point-to-point maiden in January 2018. And one jockey who had one ride at Larkhill is Jacob Pritchard-Webb, the Sky Sports racing presenter. What are your thoughts, Jacob? Shishkin or Energumene?
That's a very good question. I suppose looking ahead at Cheltenham with the form of last year and Shishkin having had track form at Cheltenham, you would be favouring him, seeing he is already 1-0 over Energumene. And there are things that will also help Shishkin at Cheltenham that didn't necessarily hinder him, but everything went wrong for him that day. He made the mistake. He was jumping out to his left, and all these things could hopefully be righted going forward into Cheltenham. Energumene's got it up against him, but the possibility that throwing Shaq and Boursois into the mix, it almost to me like they could do it a similar way to Ballydoyle do it, have multiple horses to help one horse. That could fall into Energumene's favour. So Shishkin's now got two to look out for, whereas it could all fall into place for Energumene. But he's got a difficult task ahead, I think. But it's great for British point-to-pointing and for Larkhill to have had a debutant go on to do what he's done. It's just brilliant.
That's a good point you bring in about Larkhill. What's it like riding at Larkhill?
It's a very long way round. You need about 40 minutes to walk the course. The fences are big and upright. They must probably be the biggest point-to-point fences in the country. I can't say I had a particularly fond time of it because it was cold, very windy, and my horse tipped up at the 9th. So, and it was only my second ever ride. So you need a good jumper. So I'm not surprised he's a champion chace horse. But good horses go there. So again, I'm also not surprised he's gone on to become the horse that he's done. But I do find it funny that he schooled at Nicky Henderson's with Nico on the week before he ran, and then he goes to be in Ireland, and now he's Nicky Henderson's greatest rival. I think that's just comical.
And did you actually pick a winner, or were you sitting on the fence?
I thought Shishkin would beat him. However, about halfway around, I thought if I could become Irish, I would have done. But they're both phenomenal horses. I've seen Shishkin in the flesh. I've never seen him do a gallop or anything. But he's quite a sight to behold, especially this year where they say he's grown. He now really is an impressive looking animal.
So you're going for
Shishkin.
Thank you. One trainer who is familiar with Energumene is Devon-based Chris Honor, who came up against him on Energumene's only point-to-point race at Larkhill in January 2018. What do you remember about that day, Chris?
Was a little while ago, so it's more of a guesstimate than a knowledge. But obviously, I've got a horse called Troy Mellin who we ran that day. He'd already run quite well in a couple of other maidens. So we probably went there quite hopeful. But when you have the likes of Tom Lacey in a point-to-point, he was quite, I think of the word, but basically he was winning quite a lot of races. Him and his jockey back then, I can't remember his name. Names are never my strong point. but Tom Lacey was doing very well, so he would have been the one that we would have known would have been the one to beat, because he quite often had 4-year-olds that he would be looking to sell pretty much after one run. So he would have been expecting it to win, and obviously now looking back at it with hindsight is always a wonderful thing. He wasn't going to be far wrong, was he? So, 2.5 mile point to point. My lad, I think the highest he's been rated is 103. So taking on a 170 plus horse was always going to be a difficult target. So but there we go.
So Energumene won by 3.5 lengths. So did you think he was something special on that day at Lark Hill?
I wouldn't have said something. Not to the where he is now. No. And I think anybody would have been a brave shout to call it back then as well. It's obviously taken him a little while to get where he is now. He's obviously been good, but even probably 2 years ago, he was starting to be touted. I can remember that. But where he is now, you could argue he's one of the best 2-mile chasers around now. But is he even the best chaser in Willie Mullins' yard? Shishkin Poursoir, I don't know. It'd be interesting what horse will turn up when he comes over, and they take on each other, and then you've got Shishkin in the mix as well. So I think it's going to be one of the races of the festival. This is, I love sitting down and watching it on the telly. I'm not a great fan of actually going. It's so busy. Everybody's on top of you. So I probably sat in front of the telly and with my £5 on something, probably an outsider trying to make a bit of money and losing any money. But it's a great thing to look forward to.
So you'll be on the sofa?
Yes, so most likely, I would have thought. I'm trying to remember. It's the Wednesday, isn't it? I think I've got runners on the Tuesday and Thursday. So I probably will be sat on the sofa watching it.
So head on the block, who do you think's going to win?
I'm going out of your mix. I'm going to go Shishkin Poursoir, if I've said that correctly. I don't know. It's just something says that if he turns up and Willie Mullins hasn't lost faith and he knows what he's doing, it could be interesting. There isn't a lot between the three of them, and I think it's what we had: Moscow Flyer, what was Pipe's horse, Well Chief, and Azertiup, and it could be very much another Queen Mother like that when those three were head to head coming down to the last. Probably one of the best Queen Mothers, and then even back before then you had the Viking flagship Travado. I can't remember what the other one was, and they came down over the last together. So Queen Mother always sets up some good races when they're jumping those last two fences at the speed that they're going. It's a sight to behold, and it's what we do the job for. And people are trying to say, it's not all about Cheltenham, but you try telling that anyone who wins a race at Cheltenham, it is all about Cheltenham. And it's something to look forward to. I wish I was ever in a position to have something as good as them. But for now, I'll sit back on a sofa, watch and enjoy.
Well, thanks for that, Chris. But you did have a winner here on the 26th of February at Chepstow, so things are looking up at your stable. Yes, yeah. No, we're just tipping away quietly. Obviously 9 in training at the moment, and a few of those are babies, so they're not even running at the moment. So we had Tile Tapper winning yesterday, a nice filly win a couple of weeks ago called Mayhem Maya, and at the moment our flagship horse is Grumpy Charlie, who will be going to Cheltenham on the Tuesday for probably the Ultima, and I'd like to think he'll have a good chance. He ran up against Brave Man's Game the other day in a handicap, so we couldn't beat him then, so we've decided to go the handicap route rather than take him on at levels again in the 3-mile chase. So we shall see, but we go there, our fingers crossed, and hopefully we have a good day. So you won't be on the sofa on Tuesday then, will you? No, Tuesday and Thursday. Tuesday the Ultima, and then Mayhem I will go for the Mayor's Novice on the Thursday. So I'm very lucky, although a small yard, we've got some nice horses to play with. So we go there hopeful rather than expectant, and we shall see how we get on. Well, best of luck to you. Thank you very much. One jockey who is heading to Cheltenham is Nick Schofield. who has just ridden his 50th winner of the season. Here's what Nick had to say about this year's champion chase. Shishkin, Energumene, or something else?
I'm going to go something else. If you're giving me the rest of the field, then I'll take it. Plenty of other good horses lining up. They had Shishkin and Energumene have very, very hard races at Ascot. And although I love both horses, I think it would be silly just to think it's between the two of them.
So who are you going for?
I'm going to go for a massive price. I quite like Gary Moore's horse. Josh Moore rides. He's also in the Grand Annual, but I can see him just picking up. He won at Aintree last year in Handicap Company. He's a very smart horse. He's probably £10 short on ratings, but he could just come home well.
Sadly for the podcast, Nick's selection, Editeur de Guite, is now not running in the champion chase, but is entered for the Grand Annual Handicap Chase on the same day. Our final guest of the 8 is former Irish champion jockey Charlie Swan, who won the Queen Mother Champion Chase in 1995 on the David Nicholson-trained Viking flagship. Who would he go for?
Yeah, it's going to be a very tight race because I suppose if the television had broken after the second last, you'd still have said that Energumene would have won. But when they got to the line, it was a different story. And Cheltenham is different. It's left-handed. It's undulating. It's a lot tighter track than Ascot. So I think that puts in favour of Energumene. But the only thing that day in Ascot, Energumene never missed a fence. Everything went well for him. So there's going to be very little between them again, I think. It's going to be quite tactical affair. I think Paul might not kick on as early. He might hang on to him as long as he can and try to do Shishkin for a bit of speed, because I think Shishkin probably stays better than Energumene. And it's going to be a fantastic race. I wouldn't like to really say, but obviously I'd like to see Willie's horse win, but it's going to be a close one.
There we have it. The Paddock and the Pavilion jury have gone for Energumene. Just like Arkle versus Millhouse, it is Ireland versus England. Will Shishkin give trainer Nicky Henderson a record 7th winner in the champion chase? Could Energumene or Chacun Pour Soi give Willie Mullins his first winner in the 2-miler? Or will an outsider, like last year's winner, put the kettle on, grab the headlines on Wednesday, shortly after 3:30?
Thank you for listening to The Paddock and the Pavilion. You can download the show on Apple Podcasts,
Amazon Music,
SoundCloud, Stitcher and Spotify.
Follow us on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram at The Pad and Pav. Don't forget, if you like the show, please do leave us a rating and review.
Sports Social Podcast Network.
Feel the whoa with Listerine at BJ's. You can save $2.50 now on Listerine products like Total Care Anti-Cavity Fluoride Fresh Mint Mouthwash or Cool Mint Pocket Packs Fresh Breath Strips at your nearest BJ's location. Experience the feeling of a million germs zapped in seconds with Listerine. Discount available through December 24th. Save now only at BJ's.